Happy Saturday, everyone, over there in Africa and all the diaspora all over the world. Welcome to the weekly report news at Tempo Africa TV by EliNyamal Talk Show. So today we're going to bring you guys updates of what is going on in most parts of the world, including the top countries that we are reporting from today is from Ethiopia with the famine that is on the rise, and South Africa with the new arrest on the former president, including Haiti with the assassination, which is one of the trending news that is taking place right now that is under investigated. Meanwhile, in Ethiopia, United Nations warns of a worsening famine in the Tigray, Ethiopia, few weeks ago. And if you guys remember the conflict issue in Ethiopia at the Tigray region that started out a couple months ago, especially in November 2020 of last year, things have gotten worse. Many people have dispersed to the neighboring country in Sudan, and conflict issues continue to rise between the political party of the Prosperity and all the other local regional political parties as well in Tigray. And as it has been reported by the United Nations that the famine is predicted to get worse in Ethiopia. So the United Nations shows a report on Friday that more than 400,000 people in Ethiopia crisis-wrecked Tigray region are now facing the worst global famine in decades. And about 1.3 million are on the brink. And warned that despite the government ceasefire for the serious potential for fighting in the western Tigray. The dire United Nations reports to the first open meeting of the United Nations Security Council since the conflict in Tigray, which began last November of 2020, and pointed a devastation picture of the region where humanitarian access could not get access to the region. It was very restricted. About 5.2 million people needed aid, and they needed it emergently. It was very highly requested in the last few days. And the Tigray forces that returned to their capital, Mekelle, after the government's on June 28 ceasefire and exit from the region have not agreed to halt to hostilities. So those are the updates on what is going on with the soldiers that were supposedly captured and back into the Tigray region in Mekelle. Tigray has been racked by conflict since November, which the fighting erupted between the Ethiopian federal government, backed by the troops from neighboring Eritrea, and fighters from Ethiopia's Amhara region, and forces loyal to the Tigray People Liberation, TPLF, the Northern Region ruling party. Those are the ruling party of the Tigray region. The United Nations Security Council held its first public meeting on these conflicts on Friday, days after the Tigrayan forces, in a stunning turn event to the capital region in Mekelle. Now, meanwhile, in South Sudan, we just recently had an Independence Day in South Sudan. So this marked the 10 years anniversary of South Sudan. And here's what President Salva Kiir. In South Sudan, it is July 9th of 2021, which marked the 10th year. And this was one of the greatest independence since South Sudan became an independent nation from the whole Sudan, the northern Sudan. Ahead of this Independence Day on July 9th, Salva Kiir, the country's first and only president, promised his people a just, equitable, and prosperous nation. So he promised people that there would be peace, there would be development, and things would continue to go forward with the new nation. In the half of the century before its success from the Muslim-dominated Sudan, this has been the long-term civil war that has been going on in South Sudan as a whole that caused the division between the whole country to become two. These were the first 10 years of this young country's history, seeing much of the suffering after the division of the countries. A lot of the related conflicts were abuses, famine, flooding, disease, and enslavement within South Sudan nation. Decades later, however, South Sudanese is either just, nor equitable, nor prosperous, and having suggested that it would slip into the civil war as soon as the flag is hostile, said Mr. Salva Kiir during the Independence Day speech. And this was what he has predicted soon as the country became independent on its own due to the different tribalism and the things that are going on in South Sudan. So it is a process for the people to see how are they going to build this nation now on their own as an independent from the Northern Sudan. And a lot of it has erupted into many different conflicts and also tribal conflicts as well, which became a reality in just 1 to 2 years right after the Independence Day. It claimed perhaps 400,000 lives before the tender ceasefire in 2018. Yet through it all, the South Sudanese people have shown resilience. We commend that the commitment many have shown in working together to build a brighter future. So it is deeply saddened that the promise of the peace and the prosperity that the independence represent was not fulfilled, and it still remains unfulfilled. So for everyone that knows about what's been going on in South Sudan, things are slowly getting to some normalcy, and people are still trying to recover from it and build up the nation with many developments that are taking on as well. So we pray for South Sudan and hope that the peace agreement will be signed and will be fulfilled so that the country can continue to move forward. And all the 64 tribes of South Sudan will unite to build their nation and creating a future generation, creating a future life for the next generation. Now, going on to Haiti, this has been one of the most trending news that is going on right now. In Haiti, there was an assassination of the president of Haiti. A massive development story arises in Haiti with the assassination of the Haiti president, and fear are rising on the gang violence and political issues as well. Now, stating back on July 7th, during a nighttime attack, a group of an assassinates fatally shot President Jovenel Moise of Haiti and wounded his wife, Martine Moise, in their private residence at the outskirts of the capital, Port-au-Prince, in their location. The assassination rocked the nation, staking fear and confusion among residents in the Haitian diaspora about what is to come. The president's wife was injured in the attack and was flown right away to Rader Trauma Center in Miami. She was in stable condition, according to the ambassador, Mr. Edmond. The attacker's precise motive is not yet clear. So they're still investigating it. They're still finding out who are the suspects and the people behind the assassinations. And it is listed to be multiple people. Suspects have been arrested connected to the president's killing. 2 Americans are among the least, which they have discovered. 20 people who have been detained thus far, including other foreigners involved as well from Colombia. At a news conference on National Police Headquarters with the interim Prime Minister, the American men were identified as Joseph Vincent, which is a 55-year-old, James Salix, 35-year-old, Florida residents of the Haitian descent. Another 18 detained suspects were described as Colombians. Now, as on the civilian view, they were asked on what are their thoughts and what can they expect after this assassination. Many have said that, it does force a resentment on the president on his previous ruling habits throughout the country. But it's still shocking to the people how he was assassinated and how traumatizing it is to see such a tragedy happen to the leader of the country. Now, some of the future concerns that are on the rise is the gang violence going up and also the fear of the future unrest. And this could really affect a lot of other different foreigners, countries as well that has been involved in this assassination, including the United States as well. So more developing stories will continue to rise up on the assassination of the president of Haiti. Meanwhile, in South Africa, former South African president has been arrested. Jacob Zuma, who has been arrested for a 15-month sentence, which has been turned to him by turning himself in, has the walls closed in on him. The police surrounded his home, forcing him to have no choice but to turn himself in. Zuma, who served as a South African president from 2009 to 2018, had been given until July 4th to hand himself over to the police. If he failed to do so or to show up, the police were given until the end of Wednesday to arrest the 79-year-old and bring him in. The Constitutional Court had found him guilty of contempt for failing to appear before a commission investigations, corruption accusations that taint a president once best known for his corrupt behavior. The civilian opinion on it they have reacted in victory, seemingly that it is a prevailing of the court system in South Africa there. Thank you very much, and that is our weekly update on what is going on in Africa and other Caribbean countries as well around the world, and we will bring you guys more update next week, and have a wonderful night.
Hot mix mixing. Du nouveau à Minneapolis, Tempo Afrique Travel. Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.